From the remote studios of the Department of Communication in Phillipsburg, welcome to this Second Chance Task Force panel discussion themed Let's Act Together, exploring opportunities and second chances. Here's your moderator, Mr. Nigel Schultz.
Good morning to all the viewing and listening audience. Welcome to the first and hopefully many panel discussion to be hosted by the Second Chance Task Force. Thank you for joining us for this event. My name is Nigel Schultz. I'm a specialist in behavioral science. Today, I would like to thank the task force for inviting me to be the moderator for this very important panel discussion entitled Let's Act Together, Exploring Opportunities and Second Chances. Many of you are most likely wondering what the Second Chance Task Force is. The Second Chance Task Force was initiated by the former Minister of Justice in 2019 and was officially named the Second Chance Task Force in 2020. The task force aims to assist justice-involved persons with the reintegrating challenges and reduces stigma associated with this target group, especially in the workforce after being released from detention due to probation or early release. The task force aims to provide resources and support, advocate, as well as promote awareness, sensitivity, education, and resource identification for the general public. The task force currently consists of members of the House of Detention and Prison, Division of Labor and Social Services, and the Foundation Judicial Institution of St. Martin. With this panel discussion, it is the hope and intention for the Second Chance Task Force to highlight the problems and issues justice-involved persons experience, whether they were incarcerated or not, and the programs, policies, and resources in place to assist them. Now for our panelists. On behalf of the task force, I would like to thank Dr. Tashina Thomas, Mr. Hayes Stake, Ms. Cynthia Philman Clark, Mr. Stephen Carty, Mr. Helio Kuhlman, Ms. Natasha Richardson for their participation, as we look forward to the insights that they will all bring to this discussion. To kick off this panel discussion, I would like to take this moment to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Tashina Thomas. Dr. Thomas will be delivering a keynote address.
Dr. Tashina Thomas was born on the island of St. Martin, and she currently serves as the Director and Senior Counselor at the Turning Point Drug and Rehabilitation Center. Dr. Thomas provides individual and group counseling to clients struggling with dependencies and addiction, and is working diligently to fulfill a personal commitment of raising awareness and educating the public on issues concerning substance abuse and its detriments.
Thank you, moderator. Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure and an honor for me to address this forum today as your keynote speaker. I'm sincerely overwhelmed by this opportunity. First and foremost, I'd like to express my gratitude to the Second Chance Task Force. I'm elated by the idea of this task force, which consists of two ministries working together in this cause, demonstrating leadership and displaying love for our people via humility. I am very humbled by this. My name is Tashina Maku Thomas. I am currently the director of the Turning Point Drug and Rehabilitation Center, the first drug rehabilitation center established on St. Martin. Turning Point has set the standard for substance abuse care recovery treatment via its program on the island of St. Martin and the surrounding region. From the inception to present day, the board and team members have been passionate about helping individuals, families, community through extensive care and recovery programs. This includes our aim of preventing, reducing, and eradicating substance abuse, educating and bringing awareness to our communities on the dangers of substance use and abuse, the impact it has not only on families but communities, the economic and social impact on our country, St. Martin. The theme for today is Let's Act Together, and my keynote address today is entitled Remove the Stigma. As a society, a nation, a people, we are not where we would like to be when it comes to social implication, which society is. But the fact that we are here today fills my heart with hope as I look back at where we were a year or two ago and where we're going today. The action we're taking now. We are not at the end of our destinies as yet, but surely we're heading in the right direction, acting together. Today, we collaborate as a body of like minded individuals committed to finding innovative solutions that can affect change in the life of so many young men and women that are deserving of a second chance to become law abiding, model citizen in this country. We are grateful to have this group of professionals and their respective field of work to make this forum a reality and create a better reality for those who've received a second chance. I'm going to give you a brief history of the task force. A working group was officially established on June 19, 2019, as partnership between the House of Detention and the Prison Point Blanche Foundation, Judicial Institute St. Martin, SGIB, the National Employment Service Center, NESC, the Social Service of Division Labor and Affairs, Social Services, which was later named the Second Chance Task Force, SCTF, in 2020. SCTF has been working collaboratively since 2019, despite the social epidemic setback of COVID-19, to ensure the ex-offenders receive all the necessary assistance required for their reintegration process. The task force ensures that all required steps needed are taken and guarantee that support services are more approachable for ex-offenders. An ex-offender, as we all know, is someone who has pleaded guilty, a contender to a felony charge, or has been found guilty of a criminal offense by a court or jury. Regardless of guilt judgment, these persons have completed their sentences and have been reintegrated into this community. Therefore, it is critical to learn and be aware of the characteristic of an ex-offender. Ex-offenders' quality have a significant impact on how they interact with others and reintegrate into society. The individual quality may differ depending on a few crucial factors. Age is definitely one. An adult offender may potentially have a higher integration success back into society than a younger offender. Probabilities are favorable than older offender, now ex-offenders. They already have work experience, the possibility of an education, family, which is a sense of restraint, or a deeper appreciation for freedom. Therefore, they can be considered more self-worthy, disciplined, reliable, trustworthy, and functional in the job market. Whereas younger teenage or ex-offender, the rate of integration success may be lower than an adult because they are limited by education, cognitive skill, or work experience, which may result in lower employability and earning capacities. As a result, the task force was formed when the above mentioned ministries realized that our ex-offenders face serious issues such as being unable to find jobs after they are released and not having proper support system when they exit the prison, all of which could lead to ex-offenders returning once again and becoming offenders. Today, we are privileged to work with prosecutors who are attentive and sensitive to our culture, need, and social challenges, working and supporting the justice system in pursuit of the truth and executing justice for the community and the accused. Prosecutors, SGIB, and other involved in the criminal justice system have recognized that a distinct approach to persons with mental illnesses and addiction is not only critical in implementing uncompromised judgment and justice, but also in providing social aid and care, working together to devise fair and unbiased procedures by examining observing, understanding the condition and situation of mental health offenders and addicts, those that they also claim and develop to implement suitable procedures. For example, pre-arrest to reintegration. Working together, the task force is constantly fostering new concepts, procedures, regulation, and policies in the best interests of our ex-offenders. One of the most important journey of the ex-offender is the transition from the house of detention back home. There is a saying that say it takes a village to raise a child. Well, today I say it takes a village to support and not stigmatize offenders. And this transition, family and community support are critical. Family and social support has been demonstrated to have a variety of positive effect on ex-offenders' reintegration process. Even under ideal condition, transitioning from the prison to home is always difficult and may have challenges. Reintegration is not as simple as stepping out the door and returning to their previous lifestyle. Many persons have lost their jobs, relationships have been affected, housing arrangements have been altered, and have no social, financial support, no insurance, and lack the means needed to obtain a house, employment, or a therapist. Ex-offenders face numerous psychological challenges after being released from prison, such as discrimination, isolation, segregation, and profiling. This creates both insecurities and instabilities, which can be devastating outcome, like homelessness, substance misuse, drug overdose, failed relationships, suicide, and criminal activities. Some of the most common mental health conditions faced by recently released prisoners include post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, anxiety, depression, relationship conflict, unemployment, substance use behavior. In some instances, we fail to adequately handle the mental health of criminals and convicts from the moment they are arrested until they are released. Many of them have history of mental illnesses and have never gotten the right care of treatment. While some persons receive therapy in prison, this may stop after they are freed, causing acute harm. For ex-offenders, depending on how long the ex-offender has served, they might not quickly grasp the concept of social norm or expectations, let alone how to apply for a job or build a social network. They may also find themselves back in the same neighborhood where they have offended, which can harm and influence their mental health in a negative way. If they live in a high crime area, they could witness violence and unexpected triggers. To give ex offenders a second opportunity, we must create a secure atmosphere in which businesses may feel comfortable hiring our ex offenders. Some ex offenders are eager to change and are nice persons who have become criminal as a result of childhood events or circumstances. To attain any achievement or success, we must accept the bad yet move past it. Stigma must be replaced with optimism and understanding of how it affects us all, whether directly or indirectly. We've all met or know someone who is in this situation today. It might be a brother, a son, an uncle, a daughter, a mother, a niece, or simply a friend. We recognize qualities in that individual that others do not. This is the mindset for change, believing that good exists, seeking it out, conducting studies, speaking with close friends and family to obtain a new perspective on ex offenders. What do they enjoy? What made them laugh or weep? What are their favorite meals? And what are their global concerns? Our main key to success is getting to know them first and seeing them as a people rather than a project. I thank you. I now turn this virtual mic over to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thomas. I really enjoy that presentation. What was highlighted for me is it takes a village to raise a child, and it's also take a village not to stigmatize. That was very resonating for me also. I was thinking about your presentation concerning the insecurities, not finding jobs, losing their jobs, and losing family members and loved ones. I really like what you have stated in terms of having securities, in terms of we put these ex-offenders in a secure environment so that they can strive. Thank you very much, Dr. Thomas. Moving right along, we want to present our next speaker, presenter, so to speak, is Mr. Skeet.
Mr. Geert Steeks studied law at the University of Leiden in the Netherlands. In 2010, he started his training to become a magistrate, and 5 years later, he started working as a prosecutor in the Netherlands. Mr. Steeks has been a prosecutor on St. Martin since 2019 and has dealt with a range of cases spanning minor offenses to serious crimes. His philosophy is that the community ultimately needs to mend from the crime committed and damage that was caused.
Thank you, moderator. Thank you for your introduction. Welcome to all viewers and listeners this morning. Without further ado, I will go to my presentation. So I will give a presentation on the OM perspective on second chance in the task force. My name is Geert Steeks. I'm a prosecutor. I'm here on the island for about 3 years now. And I'll start with my presentation on what the OM, the prosecutor's office, is all about, what kind of responsibilities the office has. Well, first of all, the prosecutor is the investigation leader, so it leads an investigation into criminal acts. And of course, we do this in close cooperation with the police, who has invaluable experience and a lot of opportunities to do an investigation. The prosecutor is also the one who composes the file, so that means what the judge is reading in the end of the case is composed by the prosecutor. And at some point during a criminal investigation, the prosecutor's office has to decide on whether it will prosecute or not. And that depends on various issues. Of course, is there enough evidence? But also, is it in the interest of society to prosecute certain criminal acts? You can imagine that certain criminal acts are more important, more heavy weighing into the society than others. And of course, due to limited capacity at the prosecutor's office, at the police, at the judge, at all stakeholders, sometimes a decision is made not to prosecute. When we do prosecute and we are in a court hearing, we are representing actually the people in court. The prosecutors is speaking for the people and demanding sentences for the people. Once a court hearing is done and a judgment has been given, then that judgment has to be executed. And this is also a responsibility of the prosecutor's office. Last, but certainly not least, the prosecutor's office has a responsibility in prevention and cooperation. Prevention refers to prevention of crimes, of criminality, and cooperation, of course, cooperation between stakeholders, because we firmly believe that it is better to prevent than to, in the end, have to investigate and punish someone. And how can you prevent something best is by cooperating with your stakeholders, making sure everybody is on the same page and doing the right thing. Then our team. Our team consists of a chief prosecutor, a solicitor general, is also head of the international bureau of our team. There are 4 prosecutors, 5 legal secretaries, and there's, of course, the administration. So you can see it's quite a small team if you look at all these responsibilities. And I'm happy to say we have very good and knowledgeable people and a good atmosphere in the team. So we work hard, we try hard, but we do have our limitations. Then I already touched upon what kind of decisions the prosecutor's office makes when an investigation has been done, and the evidence, the police is finished with the investigation. First of all, there's the dismissal. In Dutch, we call it a CEPO. It means that the case will not be tried, the person will not be prosecuted any further. And that can be because of lack of evidence, but also on policy grounds. I already touched upon it a bit. There can be cases, there can be situations in which a prosecution is not useful or is not necessary anymore. For example, if the victim and the perpetrator have come together and have made amends, and the situation is no longer a problematic situation. Well, in some cases, we could say that we dismiss the case, unless we, as the prosecutors, think that the people representing the people, still the case should be done with. Then there's, of course, fines. We can actually levy fines ourselves. There's the transaction agreement that can be done as a letter to the one we are prosecuting, or we can do it during a hearing, and then it's called a TOM hearing. And during such a hearing, the case is discussed with the suspect, and agreement is made on a fine or a community service. One of the advantages of such a TOM hearing is that it is a bit faster than a court hearing, but a disadvantage might be that there's no judge to look at the case. It will be the OM who is looking at the case, and the suspect, and his or her lawyer, of course. Then there's also a decision that we can make, is that we're going to summon someone to a court hearing. This is maybe the most normal of cases. We bring a case to the judge, and the judge decides on whether there's enough evidence, and if there's enough evidence, what kind of punishment there should be. Such a process can be quite lengthy. We have to make the file. The person needs to be summoned. There needs to be room in the school's court schedule. And in this presentation, it says that the court schedule is full for this year. That's not entirely correct. We're now into October. So we do have some time this year, but it's filling up quickly. And one of the problems about that is that the time between the actual fact and the actual hearing during the court case is a long time, and that's not always very desirable. If you bring a case to the court, of course, a lawyer can ask for further investigation, and there can be an appeal with the higher court if the prosecutor's office or the suspect is not in agreement with the decision of het gerecht. And this all means that it can take quite a while before a case is finished. One of the things the OM, the prosecutor's office, would really like in this regard is to have the authority to not only give community service as a transaction, but also as a compulsory decision. So then we can take some cases out of the subpoena system into more the TOM hearing system. Then as to the execution of judgments, one of the responsibilities of the prosecutor's office, one of the limitations is, of course, the point-blank prison. We all know it has limited capacity. The Ministry of Justice is working hard on trying to replace the prison, but until then we have limited capacity, which means that not all cases in which the prosecutor's office would like to seek prison sentence or pre-trial detention, it is possible to actually do that. Then a further limitation is the financial capabilities of the persons who are condemned to pay fines. The collection of fines take time. It has a high cost, especially if you relate that to the height of the fines sometimes. So another part of the execution of the judgments is the execution of the community service. And in that regard, the probation office and the court of guardianship are very important because they actually execute that part of the sentence. They are seeking employers who will make sure that the condemned person does its work. They will monitor the work, and if they are of the opinion that the condemned person is not doing its community service as it should be, they report it back to the prosecutor's office, and then we can, for example, commute the community service into a prison sentence. So what is actually the purpose of punishment? And that is important if we talk about second chances. The purpose of punishment can be fourfold. First of all, it's retaliation. It's hurting the person who hurt someone else. Then there's the protection of society by taking the dangerous element out of society. Then there's also deterrence, and deterrence is two-way. The general deterrence is sending a message to society that a certain behavior is not acceptable, that it will be punished, in the hope that other people will not do the same thing anymore. And the other part of the deterrence is the individual deterrence. Of course, if someone is punished, one hopes that that person will not do it again. And the fourth element is prevention. And prevention is very much related to creating conditions or creating certain demands on the condemned person to make sure that he or she changes his style, his behavior, his way of life, so things will not happen again. This is a quote by Don McPherson. He is a former NFL player. Later on, he became an academic, a feminist, a social activist. He did a lot of work on gender-related issues. He did a lot of work on domestic violence. And he actually spoke to the Senate about these things. And what he's saying is true prevention is not waiting for bad things to happen. It's preventing things from happening in the first place. And nothing could be more true than that, I think. So, community service. What are the benefits? Well, there are benefits to the condemned person and there are benefits to society. First of all, the condemned person does not have to do any jail time. So there's continuity in family relations, work, and in housing. So that's a benefit to the person, him or herself, but also very much a benefit to his or her partner and children or immediate relations, because a jail time can be very destructive to these networks and these relations. And sometimes you create more problems, more issues by detaining someone that have nothing to do with the detained person, but with the persons within his or her network. Community service also provides a proper day and night working schedule. We see a lot of people who do not have a job, do not go to school, who do not get up early in the morning to make something out of themselves, but go out late, stay up at night, and a community service creates a schedule where you have to get up, start work at 8 and at 5, and again get into a working rhythm, which is an essential part of making yourself a useful member of society. It also gives working experience to the person who's convicted to community service, and maybe even possibly a proper contract with the person or the organization he was working with. I think we have some very good examples of that. And then a punishment because you're not being paid for community service and the work is not always that good and that nice. But if it results in a proper contract, then I think both have benefited. Benefits for society then. One important aspect is that it's much cheaper than in jail. If someone is in jail, that costs a lot of money in terms of housing, in terms of food, in terms of the salaries for the guards. So jail is actually quite costly. And if somebody is convicted to community service, you avoid these costs. And that person is then also giving back to society. If you're cleaning the streets, if you're repairing houses, you're giving back to society. An important aspect is for society is also that the condemned person has better prospects for resocialization and reintegration. If you spend a long time in prison, it is quite difficult to re-enter society. And this whole Second Chance Task Force is about trying to create better prospects for resocialization and reintegration. And that is very, very important. And of course, what I have said about community service as such also relates to community service as part of a prison sentence, where you spend especially the last part of the prison sentence, not only inside jail, but also outside jail, where you can work, gain work experience, get a proper rhythm, get a more social context, and that by that get a better chance at resocialization and reintegration. So the second chance. Reintegration is actually a right for every person. In international covenants, it is again and again stated that prison should not be only about taking someone out of society, putting him somewhere and throwing away the key. No, prison sentence should also be geared towards re-entering society, resocialization, and getting a person back on track. And again, this is also important for society, because if someone leaves prison without any experience, without any rhythm, without any social context, the chances of being restarting a criminal life are big. So reintegration is a right. There are a lot of international standards for this, and also in de landsverordening voor beginselen gevangeniswezen, the labor is one of the rights of an inmate. And as I said, it's in the interest of society. Being outside of society and without a job are main indicators for social behavior. So if you want to take that away, you have to start with that before someone gets out of jail. And let's be clear, if a sentenced person has served his or her time, then he has repaid his debt to society. Then he has the same rights as anyone else and has a right to get a second chance and to really start his life again. It's in the interest of society, and it's also in the interest of the families and the closely related person to others. So how can the prosecutor's office help in giving people second chances, or even making sure that a second chance is not necessary at all, because you take into account the interest of the person beforehand already. So when the prosecutors are deciding on whether someone needs to be in pre-trial detention, we do take into account the social network and the personal circumstances of the person itself. And if someone has a proper job, that is one of the important considerations not to ask for pre-trial detention. That doesn't mean that everybody who has a proper job will not get into pre-trial detention, because some crimes are just so severe that pre-trial detention is, in our view, the only answer for that crime. What we always do is request reports by the probation office and the court of guardianship. They will investigate the social network of someone, whether he has a job, whether there's schooling. All these elements will be investigated, and sometimes in a very early stage already, so we can take that into account during our thinking about pretrial detention. So we take second chances, the importance of labor also into account when demanding a punishment during trial. We are aware that if we ask for a lengthy prison sentence, it will mean that someone loses a job or loses his house. And we do take that into account. And again, some crimes are so severe we cannot then do anything else than ask for a lengthy prison sentence. But sometimes we can make something work. And one of the things we can do is to ask for a community service instead of jail time. And community service it's not paid. You have to do it. It's not always a job you like. So it is a serious punishment. And if it avoids sending a person to jail and thereby making him lose his job or his home, sometimes that is the best answer according to the prosecutor's office. Another very important aspect is that we can ask for conditional sentences. That means that someone does not go to jail unless he follows a certain list of criteria. And one of the conditions can be that he has to listen to the probation office or the court of guardianship. But you can also attach conditions in terms of schooling or in terms of skills training or in terms of day and night rhythm. For example, electronic detention, that somebody has to be at a certain place during certain hours. And these conditions are important in preventing criminal acts from happening again. And sometimes it really helps in making a person go to school or go to work or follow a job training. And again, the probation office and the court of guardianship are responsible for the execution of these elements. But if they report back that the person who was condemned to these conditional sentences does not follow these conditions, again, the prosecutor's office can decide to or commute the sentence or go back to the judge and ask for a different sentence. So lastly, the prosecutor's office can and does emphasize the importance of a early start with resocialization during the prison sentence, and especially if someone is eligible for early release, it is very important to start your resocialization process and your search for jobs and your re-entering the labor process before that early release. Thank you very much. This was our presentation from the prosecutor's office perspective on second chances. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your attention. And now back to you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Skeet. The next presenter today is none other than Mr. Stephen Carty.
Mr. Stephen Carty started his career at the Justice Ministry as a prison guard. 4 years later, he joined a police force where he served for 26 years. The last 5 years, he served as a community police officer, during which time he was a founding member of the Cops and Kids program, which focused on bridging the gap between law enforcement and the school-age population. In 2017, he was appointed as interim director at the Point Blanche prison for a duration of 2 years. His prior experiences as a prison guard have served as a stepping stone in preparing him to lead. In December 2021, Mr. Carty was appointed as the new prison director.
Hello, good morning to my fellow panelists of the Second Chance Task Force and to those listening online. As prison director, it is my responsibility to make sure that the living climate for our clients at the Point Blanche prison is up to par. It is important that their living climate is optimal, such as that our clients have the ability to exercise, have job opportunities, to express their religious beliefs, and of course, two of the main important ones, the chance of education and contact with their family members. I think it's important to know that if one of our clients or inmates at the Point Blanche prison do not feel comfortable, that means that their mindset won't be a positive one. So it's very important that some of the basic needs, such as good medical care, nutrition, psychological care, safety even between inmates, are things that are put as priorities. And I think the real trick is to make sure that the inmates leave the prison system better than when they entered. In order for that to happen, it's important that we bring the outside world inside the prison system. In order to do that, it would be the utmost importance that the prison have the assistance of our partners. The prison is just one piece of a chain link. So with the assistance of our partners, task forces such as these, I think we're on the right road. I'd like to finally say that I'd like to state actually that the inmates at the Point Blanche prison, they are part of our society. Okay? We have fathers, mothers, brothers, uncles, aunts, godparents as we go down the line. And one day, these persons have to return back into our society. And if we continue keeping our eyes closed, I think I'll repeat that part. If we continue to keep our eyes closed, we will be just as much guilty of the situation than actually being part of the solution. With that, Mr. Moderator, I thank you for the time, and I'll send it back over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carty. Well, short and sweet, and definitely we are focused. Hence, the task force is here to assist and render any assistance we deem necessary. Without further ado, next up, list of speakers, Ms. Cynthia Philman-Clark.
Mrs. Cynthia Philemon holds a bachelor's degree in social work and a master's degree in public administration. She began her career in 1996 as an adult probation officer stationed at the Prison and House of Detention in Suriname, before her promotion in 2002 to the position of Chief Youth Probation Officer. In February 2014, she was appointed acting director of the Foundation Judicial Institute St. Martin. Her life experiences sit at the center of her drive to help people. Mrs. Philemon believes that employment fills a vital need for most justice-involved persons. To her, public-private partnership is therefore crucial in sharing the responsibility for community safety and quality of life.
And I would like to also thank the listening and viewing audience on behalf of our organization for investing your time with us. And I'll get right into my presentation. De Stichting Justitiële Inrichtingen Sint Maarten, or Foundation Judicial Institute Sint Maarten, also known as SJIS or SJIB in the community, is a non-governmental organization subsidized by the Ministry of Justice with a task to provide family guardianship and probation and parole services to the community of St. Maarten. Besides these two departments, SJIS also manages the Foster Family Central Unit and is in the process of opening a new youth residential home. For this panel discussion, I will focus on the Probation Department, which specializes in the assessment and management of offenders. The mission of the Probation Department is to contribute towards a safe and peaceful community by preventing and reducing criminal behavior. Our interventions are aimed at positively impacting adult offenders so that they too will lead pro-social and crime-free lives. We believe that everyone is an equal part of our society and that everyone makes mistakes. We also believe that everyone can and must learn from their mistakes. But offenders are responsible for their own actions, and judicial authorities decide on the consequences of criminal behavior. For offenders who are unable to take responsibility due to a disability, an addiction, or their mental condition, care and treatment should be made available. In line with our vision and mission, the Probation Department has been assigned 4 core tasks. We provide judicial authorities such as the court, the prosecutor's office, and the parole board with advisory reports based on a forensic diagnostic instrument, which leads to a risk analysis and advice how to prevent repetition of the offense. We also execute probation and parole supervision orders, sometimes by means of electronic monitoring. We do this on the basis of a forensic methodology related to the development and desistance of criminal behavior. We also execute training orders to accomplish behavioral change, such as anger management, social skills, moral reasoning, and domestic violence safe home training. And we supervise and guide community service orders, which we execute at different NGOs throughout the community. The current slide gives an impression of the workload of the Probation Department over the past 3 years. As you can see, there is a steady growth in our workload, which does not necessarily mean that there are more persons apprehended by the police, convicted by the court, or released from detention. But this shows the need for probation services from our main mandators, namely the prosecutor's office, the court, the prison, the parole board, the Court of Guardianship, Youth Probation Department, and the Minister of Justice, which we manage with a small team of dedicated forensic workers. The Probation Department is the only entity involved in all stages of the criminal justice process. This is evident based on the current chart. During all these phases of the criminal justice process, the Probation Department conducts assessments and prepares advice reports and in turn receive judicial orders for execution based on specific conditions. This includes the transition of youth probationers and parolees from the Court of Guardianship to the adult probation, once the minor reaches the age of 18 years. There are several conditions that can be imposed on a person who is suspected or convicted of a crime. This could be follow the instruction of the probation officer with mandatory face-to-face meetings, contact or location ban, which we know as a restraining order, sometimes by means of electronic monitoring, undergo psychological counseling, substance abuse, or psychiatric treatment, a drug, alcohol, or gambling ban could also be imposed, participation in vocational training, employment preparation program, and so on. Um, Actually, any other condition concerning the behavior of a person in question can be imposed on a person suspected or convicted of a crime. It is the task of the probation officer to assist the client with living up to these conditions and report when they do not. So, what does the supervision entail actually? I will just mention a few in the interest of time. Checks whether clients meet the imposed conditions and assist, encourage, and motivate them to comply. Signaling and reporting impending violation to the prosecutor's office. Guidance in addressing criminogenic factors such as housing, finance, relationships, work, healthy lifestyle, attitude, and other meaningful activities. Organize financial and medical aid in collaboration with the Social Affairs Department. Assist with locating job openings and contact with employers. We do this in collaboration with different governmental and non governmental agencies, such as the prison social workers, Social and Labor Department, the Mental Health Foundation, Turning Point Foundation, Women's Desk, Safe Haven Foundation, Dr. J Enterprises, and the Court of Guardianship. Also, the many organizations that allow justice-involved persons to repair the damage that they cause to society by offering them a community service workplace. Despite the collaboration and efforts made to assist justice-involved persons are confronted with a number of barriers that impede their successful reintegration into society, such as housing, financial assistance, access to health care and social security, support of family and network, but most importantly, job market reentry assistance. The majority of justice involved persons are in a disadvantaged position entering the judicial system. There is generally a low level of education amongst this target group with inadequate and fragmented work history and lack of occupational skills, which makes it challenging for justice involved persons to enter the job market or provide them with job market and re-entry assistance. And when incarcerated, there are still insufficient programs and resources available to adequately prepare detained persons for reentry into society. The current slide gives an overview of the employment status of clients of the Probation Department. It is obviously very concerning to us that only about half, a little bit more than half of our clients hold a steady job, which are mostly in the sectors construction, maintenance, cleaning, and transportation. However, often under less favorable conditions, which we will further highlight during our discussions. Employment is obviously a key factor for successful reintegration, but it is more than simply a source of income. It provides discipline, structure, routine, and opportunities to create social contexts and means to take care of their self and their family. It also enhances their self esteem, self confidence, self efficacy, and those itself are key factors for behavioral change and desistance from crime. Last but not least, contrary to what some people think about justice involved persons, they want to do good. They have the same needs that you and I have. They have talent, skills, and aspiration, and want respect, recognition, a job, have a decent income, take care of themselves and their families, succeed in life, and desire to become the most that they can be. And although offenders are responsible for their own actions and have to be held accountable, we owe it as a society to provide them with opportunities and second chances to improve themselves and become productive citizens of society. I will end my presentation with the following statement: 100% of prisoners will be released from detention someday. And I quote Rule 30 of the Nelson Mandela Rules: the duty of society does not end with a prisoner's release. There should therefore be governmental or private agencies capable of lending the released prisoner efficient aftercare directed towards the lessening of prejudice against him or her and towards his or her social rehabilitation. And that brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you for your attention, and I will give the floor back to the moderator.
Thank you very much for that valuable contribution, Miss Philmon Clark. It was very well detailed and information. Very, we can move right along with such information. Um, Without further ado, finally, last but not least, actually one of the most important person, our final speaker, I would like to introduce to you, to the panel today, Miss Natasha Richardson.
Miss Natasha Richardson has worked for the government of St. Martin in various capacities for more than 10 years. Ms. Richardson holds a bachelor's degree in Communication and Information Studies and has functioned as the section head of labor market for many of those years. She currently oversees the daily operations of multiple services in the area of labor market, including the National Employment Service Center. Ms. Richardson supports building strong relationships with different partners within the community with a focus on employment and training opportunities for the purpose of continued development of St. Martin. As the co-chair of the Second Chance Task Force, she looks forward to working on behalf of justice-involved persons to help create spaces and opportunities for them to grow and develop professionally.
My name is Natasha Richardson. I'm the section head of labor market. Today, I will be presenting information on the theme Let's Act Together, Exploring Opportunities and Second Chances from the perspective of the Division of Labor Affairs and Social Services. In focus today, I'll be presenting information on the different departments that we have within the Division of Labor Affairs and Social Services, namely the Department of Labor Affairs, or products and services, and the Department of Social Services, their products and services. Special emphasis would be placed on the National Employment Services Center, our goal, vision, and mission, the programs and services that we offer. I'll take a few minutes to, of course, define labor market vulnerability based on the ILO classification. I will also present some information on the challenges in that we experience at the National Employment Services Center as it regards assisting justice-involved persons with developing their career and or finding employment. And finally, I will end by presenting some recommendations for consideration. Of course, everything presented today is not exhaustive. That's why the task force was brought together. That's why we will continue to champion and advocate on behalf of justice involved persons, because there's a lot of discussions to have regarding, the manner in which we can assist the specific target group. So, the Department of Social Services, what are some of the products and services? As an execution agency, Social Services provides social and humanitarian related services in the form of immaterial and material aid. What is immaterial aid? Immaterial aid is social worker intervention, and social worker intervention is factually the social workers assisting persons with difficult situations. That could be counseling, it could be information on budgeting, it could be information on dealing with family and or personal issues. We also have crisis care at the Department of Social Services. Crisis care is intervention for urgent crisis situations. So there, for example, think of a fire. A family has a fire at their home. They're displaced due to this fire. Our crisis care team will be activated, and that crisis care team will assist them with finding a place to stay. It would also assist them with securing food, the necessary basic needs, and of course, assist them with the psychological impact of having experienced that fire at home. As I mentioned already, at social services, we also offer counseling and guidance for personal and or professional dilemmas. So in a nutshell, that is immaterial aid. Material aid is legal assistance, medical assistance, and financial assistance. Legal assistance is assistance with legal representation fees for civil and labor related legal cases. So, if you have a civil case and you would like to pursue that in the court of first instance in Martin, you can submit an application here, which will award you a fee in order to ensure that your legal representative is paid for their service. Medical assistance is assistance for medical expenses for persons who qualify and are not insured elsewhere. Financial assistance is assistance for those vulnerable persons who cannot provide for their basic needs and their family's basic needs. The only catch with financial assistance, unfortunately, is that it's not an unemployment benefit. And by that, you have to go through an application process and you would have to qualify for that particular assistance based on your income. What are some of the products and services of the Department of Labor Affairs? As an execution agency, Labor Affairs provides employment and labor market related services. The Department of Labor Affairs has two sections: Section Employment Permit and Section Labor Market. For the purpose of this presentation, I'll be focusing on some of the services provided by Section Labor Market. But for your information, we have business registration. That is the service that affords a business the opportunity to register their business with us. And that also includes their personnel. We also have complaints and dismissals. Complaints is the service that allows an employer or employee to receive assistance with mediation for a labor dispute. So there's an issue with your employer or there's an issue with an employee. You could come in, you can file a complaint. Our dedicated officers here will assist you with resolving that particular matter. We also handle dismissal applications. Your employer, you want to dismiss one or more of your employees based on the National Ordinance on Severance and Dismissals. You are required to submit an application to the Director of VSA who will handle that matter. So these are some of the services that we offer. Sorry. So for business registration as a business, you can expect to receive a proof of labor registration as a product. For complaints, you can expect to receive a final status letter. And for dismissals as a product, you can expect to receive the decree signed and issued by the Secretary General of the Ministry of VSA. And finally, we have the National Employment Services Center, abbreviated as the NESC, which would be the focus for the rest of this presentation because it is the team, a very dynamic team of specialists who works together with job seekers, including the target group of justice involved persons, to ensure that they build their career, they develop their career, or they find assistance with employment, or they are referred to all of the other services that are applicable to, relevant to the assistance that they need in terms of building themselves and preparing themselves for the labor market. What is the NESC? We've received so many questions about this over the last few years from parliamentarians to ministers to persons internally inside the apparatus of government. The NESC is basically the job placement services re envisioned. Before 2017, if you were a job seeker, if you were a business, you would have come in, you would have registered as a job seeker, you would have registered a vacancy. Most likely, you would not have been assessed. Maybe a few weeks later, you would have received a call as a job seeker indicating that there is a job opportunity available. You would have been referred by one of our officers at the time to that vacancy. You would have needed to report to that company for the interview. And that was the services that we offered pre 2017. In 2017, we decided to re envision the job placement services. We decided to name it the National Employment Services Center. We created business services officers and employment services officers. The business services officers are predominantly focused and busy with services for the business community. The employment services officers are tasked with employability enhancement services. As a job seeker today, if you register with the NESC, you can expect to be assessed. You can expect to have a development plan designed in collaboration with you to assist you with entering the labor market. So our services have been re envisioned to ensure that they're more holistic, that they're approachable, and that they have the desired result of assisting the business with recruiting the personnel that it needs and preparing that job seeker applicant for the labor market. We have a staff of trained, dedicated officers who assist with this entire process. Our services are free and they are enhanced, which include products for the job seekers and businesses. We also promote public private partnerships and engagement. That means that we work diligently with the private sector, whether that's community based organizations, we work internally with other departments, community development, social services, to ensure that the services that we are providing are holistic and they meet the needs of our clients and the general public. To that effect, I can proudly say that we recently signed a partnership with Royal Cruise Caribbean Lines to ensure that a significant amount of our job seekers are afforded opportunities, careers in the cruising industry. That is a perfect example of the public private partnerships that we have managed to establish throughout the years. That's one of many. We have partnerships with Diamond International, the hotel chain. We have had partnerships with Simpson Bay Resorts, and we continue to seek further opportunities as well to enhance our services and ensure that our clients are receiving well rounded services. What is the goal and vision of the NES? Our goal is to advance the vision, mission, and objectives of the Ministry of VSA based on our collective values and philosophies by delivering effective employment and labor market information and enhancement services for the provision of a stable and balanced labor market. Our vision is to provide enhanced labor market services to ensure that all can contribute positively to their recruitment, employment, and career development goals. Our mission is to achieve our vision with the execution of specific initiatives, an independent digital platform to facilitate employment opportunities. Many of you hopefully will remember jobopportunity.xs. That was an initiative promoted by the team here. Unfortunately, due to budget constraints, we were not able to keep that particular recruitment portal available. But we are currently working diligently on the next .xs, which would be our next job recruitment portal platform. We are looking forward to finalizing the development of that in collaboration with Sites on Us. So, to the general public, I would want to say look forward to that because it is in line with our vision to offer a digital platform to facilitate employment opportunities. We offer employability enhancement programs. We call them our employability enhancement workshops. We invite speakers, business leaders from the private sector to host those sessions as well. We have trained employment services officers who have been trained and certified in life skill coaching to offer training in conflict resolution, communication, preparing your resumes, preparing cover letters, keeping your job, getting the job, and ensuring that job seekers are well-rounded individuals and prepared for the labor market. We also have business information services where we invite key representatives from the business community to lead those information sessions for the business community. We've done sessions on taxes, we've done sessions on marketing, we've collaborated with the section employment permits to offer more information on applying for employment permits. We also offer labor market information services. We are currently in the process of reconfiguring this service to ensure that this information will be included on the nest.xx website. And we offer efficient and effective immaterial and material assistance in collaboration with several social services. So, as a job applicant, if you are registered with us, you can expect us to refer you in collaboration, of course, with your consent to social services because you may need financial assistance, you may need a medical assistance. You may also need to be referred to the social worker for further counseling or guidance. We assist with making that transition or that referral as expedited as possible. So these are some of the aspects that we've been working on since 2017. What are some of our products and services? I already mentioned them. We host, organize, and facilitate employment fairs as well. That's based on our national employment fair standards, which I drafted. What that was recently approved. We offer labor market information services. We're in the process of working on the recruitment platforms, employability enhancement workshops, business information sessions, and of course, we have a training development program, which is the next training development program. We match persons to businesses and we offer them on the job training opportunities to ensure that the bridge between being unemployed in the labor market is shortened, is lessened. As you can see, that picture is from a recent event that we hosted on the port of St. Martin with Royal Cruise Caribbean. You can see some of the the members of the NESC in the picture, including my person, our department head, Miss Peggy Ann Dross. Of course, I'd like to extend thanks to her for the continued opportunities and her continued dedication to her staff. We have the Honorable Minister of ASR, Mr. Omar Otley, as well in the picture. Who are our team members? We have Mr. Linroy Ray. He is a business services officer. We have Ms. Shonda Phillips. She's an employment services officer. Miss Natasha Samuel. She's an employment services officer. And we have Miss Mariah Constant, one of our business services officers. I would like to extend a thanks to my team as well for their continued support and professionalism. They're a dynamic, young, innovative team, and I look forward to continuing this, experience with them as we move forward with our future plans. We are also in the process of recruiting two additional team members. What is labor market vulnerability? ILO defines vulnerable groups as individuals with different sets of characteristics who face various barriers to employment and have overall weak or non existent labor market attachment. These groups of individuals are usually low skilled educated or low educated, ethnic minorities, single parents, disabled persons, older workers, and ex offenders. I think as a society, we tend to forget that ex offenders are considered a vulnerable group within our society and many societies around the world. I thought it prudent to highlight this because uh, this entire initiative, this panel discussion, the theme of this event, in terms of let's act together, exploring opportunities and second chances, it is crucial for us as a society to recognize that ex offenders are classified as a vulnerable group. What are some of the challenges that we experience as the National Employment Services Center? Well, for one, there simply isn't enough statistics and research into the challenges that ex offenders, justice involved persons experience as they go into the prison system and, of course, as they are released after the detention. We do not know the rate of the rate of second chance offenses. We do not know how many of them are unemployed. We do not know how many of them are underemployed. We simply do not know or have enough information about the challenges that they experience leading up to detention, leading up to committing a crime, being detained, being incarcerated, and being released. I think as a society, we need to ensure that there is more robust research and statistics in order for policy to be developed, for legislation to be drafted to assist the specific target group. There aren't sufficient holistic and joint partnership approaches. And by this, I mean if someone is released from the house of detention, we would need to know that that person is being released, and we would need to receive a referral of that person directly to us. What happens now in most instances? That person may be released into the care of SAES, or they may be released of their own recognizance, and they may come to us and they may register. We have a registration form on which a person should hypothetically indicate that they have a criminal record. In most instances, our clients do not do that. There's a reason for that. There's a scientific reason for that, because they do not want to be stigmatized. They do not want to be discriminated. But it's important for us at the Nest to know who our clients are, what their background is, because it would help us to develop a plan that basically caters to that individual person's need, because we cannot group all of the needs and all of the different facets of this individual into the larger target group. A lot of them need the same services, they need the same assistance, but as an individual, we all have our own needs and expectations. So it's always important for us to know who these persons are. There simply isn't enough business employer engagement. There isn't enough business engagement and support for the house of detention. And in turn, there isn't enough business and employer engagement for us here at the Nest. I think to ensure that our services are holistic, we need to have more consultation, collaboration, and commitment from the business community. There isn't sufficient community engagement. In preparation for my presentation, in preparation for all the presentations that I do tend to do an extensive amount of research. Internationally, regionally, there are quite a significant amount of community based organizations that advocate on behalf of this target group, that advocate on behalf of legislation or for legislation, that advocate on for policy. And usually these community based organizations have been initiated by members of this target group or by persons who support rehabilitation efforts for this target group. There are issues with rights and fair treatment. And by that, I mean, even as a justice involved person comes back into the community and they're able to secure employment, they usually have a significant hurdle in terms of receiving their pay, receiving their rights as an employee in terms of getting access to payslip, getting access to health insurance, and all the benefits that they are entitled to as employees. And there is a subset of psychological fear, stigma that has been imprinted on them, which makes it difficult for them to express their dissatisfaction with being treated unfairly for fear of being terminated. So these are some of the challenges that we experience. There aren't, unfortunately, are not sufficient resources, tools, and services to specifically assist this target group and the business community. This target group has a subset of special needs that they require. Sometimes it's anger management, sometimes it's psychological treatment. And I mentioned earlier that we offer life skill employability enhancement training here. For me, it would be challenging to offer this target group the life skills training that we offer here because, unfortunately, a large subset of them are low educated. The material needs to speak to them. It needs to be material that is approachable, and it needs to be to cater to their specific experiences and need. So I would advocate the creation of a life skills curriculum specifically targeted for this vulnerable group. Rehabilitation programs. I cannot stress enough how important rehabilitation programs are. SCS has been doing an excellent job on this particular area over the years, but we need more. We need more involvement from the House of Detention. As a matter of fact, we need more involvement at the onset of incarceration and a person being detained and a sentence rendered by the courts of St. Martin. Rehabilitation and the concept of reentry needs to start at the very beginning of this process. As Mr. Carty mentioned, we're all links in a larger chain, and the idea of us working together needs to be emphasized and improved upon. There are also quite a bit of exclusionary policies and practices, which makes it difficult for persons who have been involved with the justice system in St. Martin to successfully re-enter back into the society of St. Martin. What are some of the recommendations for consideration? This particular, yeah, I would like to say quotation really speaks to the heart of some of the challenges that we're having here on St. Martin. Unemployment among this population is a matter of public will, policy, and practice, and not differences in aspirations. So I think we all aspire to improve the circumstances of justice involved persons. I think justice involved persons also aspire to improve their circumstances as well. But we need public will. We need people, persons, groups, MPs, ministers within the public environment to impress the importance of this specific challenge. We need policy, we need legislation, and we need practice. We need people to be consistent in our attitudes and our approach to justice involved persons. We need to do away with judgment, we need to do away with stigma, and we need to do away with discrimination. We need to facilitate easier access to financial assistance. Significant strides have been made in this area, but in consultation with the officers at social services, there are still a lot of kinks, challenges within the system that need to be exercised. And that may need to occur on a policy legislative level. I must insist in my presentation that the most vulnerable period for justice involved persons are the first 6 to 12 months of their release from being detained. And if we have to insist as a society that there are significant hurdles or obstacles to them being able to successfully apply for financial assistance and be granted financial assistance, we will continue to have the revolving door of persons re-offending within our society. We need to implement employer driven employment models. And by this, I mean we need to focus on the needs of the business community. We need to ensure that justice involved persons receive educational training, that they receive psychological treatment, that they receive upskill training to ensure that they are able to transfer from the situation that they are in as being a justice involved persons to a contributing member of society based on the needs of the labor market. Employers need to be engaged. There needs to be an outreach campaign so that employers are aware of the challenges that thus justice involved persons experience, and they need to understand and be educated as to their parts in this entire equation. We need to explore record and expungement policies, and these policies and initiatives should be based on the criminal act committed by the justice involved person. If it's a first time offender, if that person was accused in charge of a minimal crime, we need to consider expunging that person's record after that person has demonstrated that they are willing and able to sufficiently reintegrate back into society. We also need to increase access to quality academic courses, occupational skill based training, and entrepreneurship opportunities by investing in the development of diverse economies. The entrepreneur aspect is critically important for this target group because many of them are interested in owning and operating their own business. And from personal experience and discussions with them, I know they're very much interested in entrepreneurship because it's protects them from the discrimination and the impact of stigma. So this brings me to the end of my presentation. If you have any questions uh, or need any additional information about the services that we offer, we have a Facebook page. You can also contact us via email or via our phone number listed in this presentation. I look forward to your comments and your questions as we move forward with the rest of the panel discussion.
If you are just tuning in, you are viewing the Second Chance Task Force panel discussion. Let's act together, exploring opportunities and second chances. Thank you for joining us. During this segment, our panelists will be discussing the various aspects of the very important topic and what we can do to assist justice involved persons. Welcome once more to the panelists. Unfortunately, Mr. Skeet was not able to join us during this discussion due to previous schedule appointment. Hopefully, he will join us for the part two of this event. So let's begin with our first question. My first question definitely will be aimed at Miss Cynthia Philman Clark. Why did the Second Chance Task Force selected Let's Act Together, Exploring Opportunities and Second Chances as the title of this panel discussion? What is the significance of the title?
Thank you, Nigel, for that question. And to answer this, I will have to briefly elaborate on how the Second Chance Task Force came about. it was mentioned also by Natasha, I believe, back in 2018. We approached the Social and Labor Affairs Department because as a probation department, we were having difficulties with assisting our clients with the reintegration needs, such as financial and medical assistance, but most importantly, employment of our clients. And employment is not a specialty of the probation department, nor is it our core task. And we needed assistance to develop an approach to serve the target group with entering into the job market. We noticed that this is the most important need of our clients. However, SGIS could just only do the minimum. Different speakers already touched on the challenges that we encountered in the field, so I'm not going to repeat that. But for the probation department, having work is seen as one of the most important factors for a successful reintegration of offenders and to prevent reoffending. If we do not collaborate and create opportunities for second chances for the vulnerable group, they will depend on social assistance and services, which will increase the burden on the government, on our society. And this will lead to reoffending and also on a feeling of unsafety in a society, and place a burden on the coffers of St. Martin when it comes to detention. So reintegration is not only the task of the probation department, social affairs, or labor department, or the prison, or the ministries besides the Ministry of Justice and the Health and Social Welfare Department, um, and the community and employers have to play a role. It is in our common interest to act together to create opportunities and second chances for this target group. Hence, this title.
Oh, I really enjoyed your explanation. Actually, it's all about togetherness and collaboration. I want to thank you for your answer. Moving right ahead, Dr. Thomas, as the director of Turning Point Foundation, why do you think that this discussion is important right now in our community of St. Martin?
Thank you, moderator. This discussion is perfect. I would say very timely as we look around our community and what we're seeing right now. There's a rise in criminal activity as a result sometime of mental health issues or addiction, right? Looking at me being the director of Turning Point, I am constantly working with SGIB for one. We do assessment at the prison or at the holding cells when clients are held there. We have to assess them to see whether or not they can come to our institution. What we've realized in the last couple of years is that clients, citizens of St. Martin, were not only coming in with addiction, but they were coming in dually diagnosed, meaning that they were coming in with a mental illness and an addiction problem, right? And so if we do not work together as a collaborative body, then there's loopholes. And for too long, there have been loopholes in our system where one area is working, but another area is not working. So as they go out, there's quickly this relapse. So they relapse back again, they become offenders. So what we're doing, we're working, we're happy for the task force as well. So once our client leave Turning Point, they can get a job, because when they don't get a job, of course, they go back to their old ways. So I think working together, let's act together. Let's act together not only today, but for the rest of our lives. And I just love the topic today, and I think that it's timely. So as the person being in charge, the director of Turning Point, I think that it's a very good thing.
Oh, thank you very much. I see Miss Richardson has her hand up. So, Miss Richardson, you have a question or a statement?
Well, thank you, Nigel, Mr. Schultz, and of course, thank you to Dr. Thomas for that statement, and I concur with that. And in discussions with Dr. Thomas, with Ms. Philemon, and of course with Mr. Carty, we've all come to the conclusion that it's all of the different organizations or departments or ministries operating on their own island, it hasn't brought us any further to where we need to be. It hasn't improved the circumstances and the situations for justice involved persons. I think what we will have if we don't have these discussions, if we don't collaborate, is the fact that the workers, the counselors by Turning Point would be executing tasks that are not necessarily their expertise, not that they're not good at it, but if you are not able to focus on the services and the assistance that is within your mandate as Turning Point, that is within your mandate as SEAS, you can see that your staff, your workers, the experts, the specialists will become frustrated and demotivated. So I think it's important for us as a society to have this discussion now, to start exploring opportunities and ways to actually collaborate and work together to ensure that justice involved persons receive the assistance that they need. So it's why not now is the question. And if why not now, when as a society will we think that these discussions are appropriate to be had? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Why not now? And now is the appropriate time. Thank you very much. Mr. Carty, in an article published in 2019 at the law, Ms. Shara Bammel noted that in terms of prisoners returning to prison, is there any form of statistics, in terms of the high crime rate in St. Martin, in terms of the prisoners returning to prison? Is there any statistic to say, well, he or she is returning because of based on the crime they have committed?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Specific statistics, no. Um, it is something that I must say that since my tenure, um, that we have not seen uh, that number increase. But I think it's important to note that there has been a change in what we see. When I started at the prison system many years ago, um, most of the persons that came were indeed kind of a swinging door, and the sentences were very short. We see today that most of the persons that uh, come into the prison have very large sentences, and this also has an effect on society. It has an effect on the person that is there, and the difficulty that it poses is, as I said before, that's the big trick, to make sure that how they enter, because if I may piggyback again off of Ms. Thomas, that they, not all, but a lot come in broken. Um, their education level is low. We also don't have any statistics on that. So that is something that at this moment we're looking into also, on actually establishing the level of education of the inmates that come in, because it's easy to say you can fill a library at a prison with books, and no one can read the books. It's easy to say you have education system as far as GED, but again, no one can follow. So we have been able to um, put a program together where um, the inmates are assessed, and they their level of education assessed, and they can participate in education, um, in order for them, that when the time comes for them to leave, that they're at least a little bit further than when they enter. But To get back to your original question, exact numbers, no.
For the start, what I heard you said is that definitely you started having system in place in terms of the reading level and in terms of assessing them. So I must commend you for that, and I'm sure that will be continuous. And I want to thank you, Miss Natasha. I see Dr. Thomas has her hand up. Please feel free, Dr. Thomas. You have a statement or a comment?
Yes, I just want to say that I commend Mr. Carty for that as well, because what you realize is because they're not able to read, at times it creates a low self esteem. So they isolate themselves instead of going out there to seek help once coming out of prison. Just wanted to add that.
Okay, thank you for that addition. I see Miss Philman want to say something as well. Feel free, Miss Philman.
I also wanted to mention with regards to the assessments that Mr. Carty was referring to, that it's very important indeed to assess incoming prisoners adequately. That is a task of the probation department. We make assessments, and what we notice is that indeed there are issues in all kinds of areas of our target group. So it is important to have a clear um, um, a vision of what you would like to achieve with the specific clients. Make a specific individual plan for each client that is geared towards their reintegration from the start of their detention. And it is correct. We have noticed it also that the prison at this moment, um, the population are mostly persons with long sentences and persons that have a criminal background already. So it is very important for us to indeed work on those statistics, because that will help us with policy, and that we continue this collaboration with each other and with the community, especially the business community.
Thank you very much, Miss Philman. If you are viewing or listening us, this is the Second Chance Task Force panel discussion. Let's act together, exploring opportunities and second chances. We welcome you and thank you for your support and tuning in. Moving right ahead, Miss Richardson, from your experience of the nest, what is the biggest misconception about justice involved persons as it regards to employment?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Schultz. The biggest misconception is that justice involved persons do not want to work. International and regional research actually tells us that justice involved persons are more likely to be a part of the labor market than their peers. And by that, I mean they're more likely to be actively seeking employment. Unfortunately for them, and unfortunately for our society as well, that employment tends to be relegated to a subset or a specific type of work. They do the hardest work and they work in usually the most unsafe environments as well. So I think that's one of the misconceptions. The other misconceptions is that they lack motivation, they lack interest, and of course, as the section head of NESC, I cannot sit here and say that the hurdle for them isn't, the threshold isn't higher than any other group in St. Martin. Unfortunately, the threshold for them is exceptionally high in terms of re entering the labor market, because they are dealing with a subset of factors that other job seekers do not have to deal with. As you know, as a person who's had discussions with them most recently in the focus group that I had, one of them who was incarcerated for approximately he received a sentence for approximately 11 years, and I think he was released after 2/3 of his sentence. He had the opportunity to do a job interview with one of the companies in St. Martin, and the company was fixated on his criminal past. So every question that he received was related to the crime that he committed, the time that he spent in prison. And unfortunately, that is some of the stigma and discrimination and experiences that they have that can be quite demotivating to persons who are seeking to really pick back up their life from being incarcerated. The fact that the employer focused on their criminal background instead of what they can offer as an employee, qua skills, competencies, and characteristics is unfortunate, because this is the very subject and attitudes that need to be addressed. I think people want to be appreciated for what they bring to the table, and that's all in persons, included justice involved persons.
You seem very warm and very intimate with the program involved. So, may I ask this question to Mr. Kuhlman? Is the perception of Miss Richardson in line with your experience as a justice involved person, Mr. Kuhlman?
Mr. Rogelio Kuiman is currently serving as the ambassador of the Inmates Association after previously serving as the vice president of the very same association in 2019 and president in 2020. During his tenure, he worked diligently with the inmates and the management of the prison to establish standards within the prison system. In 2021, he commenced with court-appointed probation concurrent with his release. His experiences as a justice-involved person and knowledge are vital to the discussion on re-entry challenges, opportunities, and second chances.
Good morning. Yes, I could agree with her emphatically because once you're released is that's the cross you have to carry, and if you do not have all, let's say, for instance, the help of your friends and family, and not educated enough, is a hard road to take.
I see Mr. Carty hands is up. Mr. Carty, you want to make a statement or a question? Please feel free.
Yes, it involves the actions of the prison. Ms. Richardson was quite accurate in during her presentation. There's there's much more as a prison institution that we can do much more. Um, from the time someone actually enters the prison system, as far as the intake, I think uh, the process, the information gathering at the prison has to improve, because what I have noticed is that indeed we do have those persons, they may not have a diploma, but they do have the skill set that and are very good at what they do. So those are information that can help our other partners within the chain. That when asked, we can say Mr. A or Miss B is very proficient in one area. So when it comes to the intake, I think the prison can assist um, with that type of information that a lot of our partners need moving forward.
Okay, thank you very much. In terms of what skill set the prisoners are capable of, in that what you said it has to improve, or other thing as well.
No, what I'm saying is that we do find that if someone might have fallen on hard times, but they they actually may be they have their diplomas, or you have those that even though they may not have a diploma, they worked in a particular field for quite some time, so they are basically maybe professionals in what they do. So they do have a skill set that can be useful. Sometimes they fall on hard times, but just to document that information and have it readily available, um, so that when it's necessary, that we don't have to go through the whole process of asking the questions, finding out where we can look as far as job placements, that we have that information readily at hand.
Right. I finally got you. Go ahead, Miss Richardson.
I just wanted to say that's in essence workforce development. Someone may have X amount of years experience in a particular field, but they don't have the certification or diploma to match that credential. So where the NESC will come in, or where SEB should come in, or where the prison should come in, is ensuring that that person receives the proper credentials to ensure that they meet the needs of the labor market. Because again, employers may be hesitant to employ justice involved persons, but they are never hesitant to employ persons who are skilled and competent in a specific field.
Thank you very much, Miss Richardson. I see Mr. Kuhlman hand is up. Mr. Kuhlman, you have a question or a statement? Feel free.
No, I wanted to make a little comment in what Ms. Natasha Richardson said. Is like if you have a profession and you're very good at that profession, that's the only way the employer might look, the other way and not look at your that you have been incarcerated. But besides that, everybody else get the stamp and they're not gonna make it. They're not gonna get a job.
And that's why the second chance task force is here in terms of being there for the inmates, or in terms of being the advocate for the persons that may have challenges. Moving right ahead, as a senior counselor, can you explain the viewing and listening audience what are some of the consequences of discrimination and stigma attached? Dr. Thomas, feel free.
What I can say basically, because I I see it every day with my residents, is that sometime, coming out of prison or coming out of rehabilitation, what happens is that there is a lack of support with family and the resident, and that's because, of course, of stigma. So the family is ashamed because, hey, this person felt, yeah, this person ended up in prison, or this person is at turning point. So there is the shame as well from the support family members, and then on the inside there is a shame as well from the resident, because now he's like, oh, I disappointed my family again. And so there's that negative stigma, not only in the community but amongst families, amongst, the support system that you need the most. So what I would see with them is, yes, the feeling of shame, hopelessness, isolation. Um, they want the treatment, but they're reluctant to get the treatment because the support system is not present. Lack of understanding, fewer opportunities, and what happened is that the person themselves now, they start to retaliate. So what stigma does is cause them to retaliate. It causes them sometimes to become bullies. It causes them to self-doubt themselves, right? And so remember, sometimes they are coming from a vulnerable background. I've know of certain cases where, for instance, parents was deported, um, child ended up here with a family member, then was treated differently than, than when the parents was here. He himself now developed this level of anger, went out, commit whatever, got himself into trouble, and now you're trying to get help after a result, and then the support is still not there. So they come out of these rehab, and that is why counseling is so important. Because in counseling, what we're looking at is to remove the stigma by building their self-confidence again, by telling them, hey, you're worth it. Yes, you're here, you have a second chance, now let's work on you. So part of the first part of our program and rehabilitation is really to build that individual, build their confidence again, build their self-esteem again. So even as, like I said in my keynote address, as a community, but as families, as support system, we need to do better, because there is definitely a stigma that is still there. We've come a way, but we need to continue to do better where that is concerned. And of course, Give me, yes, let me just finish. And also, it can lead to suicide as well. The pressure.
Okay, I see Miss Richardson has her hand up. But before I get to Miss Richardson, in terms of building, when you say build this as self-esteem, build the self-worth, what do you do in terms of? I know counseling is one. Do you give life skill classes? You know, you teach them. What do you do in terms of what is the building process involved, if I may ask?
Okay, so there is counseling sessions, there is group therapy, but there's also family meeting as well. Because most of the time, the behavior that we see today is behaviors that was never addressed from us in their childhood. So by building their self-esteem is bringing together the family now. Hey, this happened to me back then. We were never able to discuss this. As a result, I am who I am today. Let's speak about this. So family therapy is very important and the building of the self-esteem.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Richardson, you have a question or a comment?
No, I just wanted to say, and Dr. Thomas ended her statement by actually touching on the point that I wanted to make, the family support. And I think that's what we are somewhat neglecting. Although I know SEAB is now includes a program in the event for domestic violence that the perpetrator and the victim also get support. So that's such a great initiative, because what we are not recognizing in St. Martin, and that's across multiple vulnerable groups, the family, the basis of the family, the foundation of the family in St. Martin is one of the most important things in assisting these persons back into society. In the family structure, unfortunately, is not receiving enough support and assistance in being able to do this. So I just wanted to add that to the point that Dr. Thomas made, because we have to start supporting the family as well, and finding ways to support the family and finding ways to include family members in knowing how to work, communicate, talk, motivate, and assist persons within this specific target group.
I see Mr. Carty has his hand up. Mr. Carty, do you have a question or a comment? Feel free.
Yes. The prison has recognized the importance of family, and because the mindset uh, of someone that is sitting out a time, a lengthy time, I mentioned in my presentation, of bringing the outside inside, and having weekly visits um, may not is actually not enough. I know society says someone commits a crime, um, they have to do the time. Uh, but like I said before, at one point in time, they have to return back to society, and I think it's very important that uh, family ties, uh, be it parents, children, that is something that we see. Um, really affects the behavior of our inmates at the Point Blank prison. Um, we also have days where um, the family can actually cook a meal for them. So it's a home cooked meal, and it's brought to the prison for that particular inmate. So I think that those family types helps the mental state of someone that is sitting in Point Blanche for a length of time. And of course, like I said, we do have assistance of our different partners that, when needed, is always available. Ms. Moderator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carty. So what I'm getting what I'm hearing are you saying that maybe if possible in 2022 we may need to review the in what should I say, the interaction, or increase the family visitation in prison as well. We can review and see how best it could accommodate the individual. Uh, is that what I'm getting as well? And actually, what all you said also in terms of the home cooked meal is also really great. But I think it's about time we kind of review, the what should I say, and see how best we can increase family visit in terms of, I think visitation might be few, 3 times weekly. I don't know, but it sounds great. What do you think in terms of increasing visitation to help with the mental mindset of the individual?
Of course, like there's times when the visitation is scheduled. Um, Indeed, if possible, and of course, there's other logistics that cause are in effect. If it can, if it cannot, but we do see that when someone can actually feel and touch their loved ones, that it really makes a difference in how they um, sit out their time. So I think that part is something that we're really going to continue stressing on.
Thank you very much, sir. I see Miss Philman has her hand up. Um, is it still up, Miss Philman? You have a question or comment? Feel free.
A comment. I want to briefly mention that the probation department is launching a support group for the network for family members on the 6th of June. Ms. Tashina Thomas will be our guest speaker for that session. And I would like to applaud the person with the family day and the thoughts of increasing the visitation for the offenders, because having visits on a regular basis aids towards the planning of prisoners for their release, because our experience is that when persons leave the detention center, they go back to it is the family members that give them housing and lodging. They are dependent on those family members for transportation, for finances, even for a job. A majority of our clients work for family members. So if we can make sure that that connection is re-established or maintained during detention, that aids not towards a successful reintegration into society.
Seem that we're with you right now. I have this question in terms of during a recent parliament meeting, MP Camper noted that some justice involved persons have stated they are not being assisted into the labor market. From your experience, is this a valid statement, Ms. Philman?
Yes, I would say it is correct that there are currently no specific job preparedness and placement programs available for this specific target group. However, this does not mean that justice involved persons are not assisted where possible with re-entering into the job market. Our probation officers provide assistance with locating jobs and encouraging um, those job seekers, to seek employment, at times writing resumes and coaching them to on an individual basis for job interviews, or addressing issues that they encounter at work. However, as I mentioned before, this is insufficient and not the specialty of the probation department to design job entry programs for this target group. And this is why we approach the labor department, who has more specialism, and Natasha went in depth on what the Labor Department has to offer. And I also would want to stress that, and Mr. Carty mentioned it as well, that during detention period, clients have to develop knowledge and skills and work experience to develop their qualifications, and the training and education that is provided to them during detention. It adds to the value, so that we can get them unemployment after after they are released. That will make it easier for the probation department to match them with a certain task and work in collaboration with the labor department and the task force to place them in a work placement program.
Thank you very much. I see Ms. Richardson has her hand up. Ms. Richardson, feel free. You have a comment or a statement or question?
Yes, I actually, want to applaud Cynthia and her team and Dr. Thomas and her team at Turning Point for picking up the initiative to actually assist their clients with labor market preparedness. It's a challenge. I think for us here at the NESC, it's a challenge because we're not always able to identify who these persons are. And identification is essential to providing direct and accurate assistance to persons within this target group. As I mentioned during my presentation, there is no one stop service or assistance that fits every single person. Here at the department, at the NEST, we would want to tailor our one on one coaching sessions, our larger employability enhancement sessions. Specifically to assist this target group. So for us, the challenge lies with identifying who these persons are, knowing who they are so that we could tailor our assistance specifically for them as a group, but specifically for them to them as an individual. So this is some of the discussions that we hope to continue having as a task force, so that we can align all of the organizations and services in assistance of this specific target group. We simply need to know who they are as an individual. And we also simply need the other organizations, the other ministries to play their part in terms of preparing them for the labor market. Because, you know, giving someone education, although that's something that we will definitely work on in the future, is not necessarily what our mandate is at the NESC. So we want to ensure that people receive training, that they receive the rehabilitation that they need to make them more attractive for the labor market. There is a theory or a terminology used right now in this particular field, and it's called transitional planning. It advocates that justice involved persons should receive re-entry assistance from the moment of sentencing all the way through all of the different levels of justice involved systems until such time that they are able to re-enter into the labor market. And that assistance should be continual, and it should be for a longer period for this specific target group. Thank you.
This question is for Mr. Carty. Unemployment among this population is a matter of public will, policy, and practice, not differences in aspiration. Is this statement accurate?
That's a very interesting question. Um, I can answer that from uh, a personal view. Um, on our panel, we have Mr. Rogelio Cuiman. I think we both know of each other for many years. Um, but we've never really actually had a conversation with each other. So, um, so I am guilty, I think, as much of society is, on not being as much involved, right, as I maybe should be, and assisting. And I think that we spoke about stigmatism. Mr. Kleeman also spoke um, about the fact that that help. I think we have to realize that um, that assistance, that help, is so important, um, that if it's not there, what does that person do when that support system is not there? So a really truly answer to that, um, I really don't have the answer to that question.
Well, thank you for your honesty, but definitely looking at policy in terms of, I want to highlight if we might need to expand, and in terms of policy, the government may need to see other systems in place in your organization to address the unemployment among the population. I see Miss the person who can speak more definitely and more firmly on this topic, Miss Richardson. Feel free.
I think it's excellent that Mr. Carty touched on his, own individual responsibility, because this is what this is about. And this is basically what this statement is saying. I think none of us have different aspirations as it regards persons who have been in the justice, been involved with the justice system, nor do we have different aspirations as it regards public safety. We all want to live in a safe and prosperous environment. So as we're not short of aspiration in differences in aspirations in that sense, I think what this statement is trying to highlight is that the unemployment among this population is not the difference in the will or the want of Mr. Carty, my person, or Mr. Kuiman. We all probably want the same thing. The challenge is the three of us wanting the same thing enough public will, or does that impact policy, or does that impact legislation? And as far as practice goes, does it ensure that the key stakeholders are doing the things or behaving in the way that they're supposed to ensure that all of our aspirations are aligned? I think that's what this statement is saying, and in that sense the statement is very much accurate. I think as a society, when we are all, or for the most part, marching to the same beat as it regards a safe and secure environment, making sure that vulnerable people are assisted to the best of our abilities, then we can safely say that we have exhausted all opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Richardson. Definitely, I recognize once it's a collaborated effort. You highlighted something about practice, so definitely we will have to zero in on best practices in terms of getting the result. With prisoners, in terms of these persons getting employment. Thank you very much. Seeing that you're on the floor, you can stay right there. How can a justice involved person assess the products and services at the nest?
Thank you. Justice involved persons can access our services by registering as a job seeker. If you're interested in attending our employability enhancement services, you can contact us via our apply.nesc@stmartingov.org, and contact one of our employment services officers, who can then possibly schedule a one-on-one session with you, or incorporate you into our employability enhancement workshop as well. I think moving forward, we're going to have to explore ways in which we could work a little bit more collectively and collaboratively to ensure that this target group specifically is getting the employability enhancement training from the start to the finish, and that this training continues far beyond the point of them having achieved employment. They need to have a liaison, a contact person, a confidant, a mentor, We need to be able to take some of the attitudes that they have from within the prison system, that they have within their personal life, because they have very strong networks, and incorporate that into a specific program for them. So if persons are interested, they can always register at the National Employment Services Center as a job seeker. They would have to indicate that they are a justice involved person so that we could specifically design our services to meet their specific needs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Richardson. That was well said. Um, so there you have it. I want to ask the members on the panel, why should we invest our time, our money for somebody who got involved in justice involved person? Anybody? Why should we invest an unskilled person training in, investment in businesses? Why should we invest in that?
I just want to add to your question. If we don't invest in them, then we're looking at creating a bigger problem because they're going to go back to their past. So by investing in them, you're helping them to change around their lives. That's my input.
Thank you very much, Doc. Anyone else have an input, comment, statement? Okay. Well, moving forward, Mr. Kuhlman, from your experience as a president of the Inmate Association, how can this target group further work and engage with stakeholders to improve the overall standing in society?
They need to get more personal and more individual with the inmates, as was mentioned before, from the beginning. From the time they get arrested, they need guidance. And you see, sometimes you would find the individual and is uneducated, he can write or not read. And why is he not willing to follow the classes in a group? Because he's ashamed. You know, when you can read or write and in a group, you're ashamed because after the classes or so, they go in the back and they're gonna be like bullied or whatsoever. Hey, so everybody, these cases, they need special and personal attention. The individual has to be willing, but you have to put him in a spot where he feels a little comfortable to help himself and get educated. And I guess if they tackle it as how the whole setting is now with the nest and all the last task force, we might be able to achieve a lot that hasn't been achieved as yet.
Thank you very much. Good explanation. I see Miss Philman has her hand up. Miss Philman, feel free.
And I would like to add that after the investment in training and education and work programs in the prison, and the inmate is released, it is important that we give incentives to businesses so that they can hire assist us with job placements of our clients. We have a proposal that on one hand government can, for example, pay part of the salary of the private companies to employ persons under supervision of the probation department. For example, government can pay the first 750 guilders of the client's salary during a certain period, for example, a year, and the employer can supplement that salary to at least the minimum wage. So the amount to be paid to government should be equal at least um, to what the welfare, the social affair department pays as financial assistance. And after a year, for example, if the ex prisoner performs well, then he or she can hopefully be employed at that business and return through the official channels. Um, The expectation is then that more businesses will be able to hire ex-prisoners, and it will allow us also to create additional training and apprenticeship programs that could provide opportunities for justice-involved persons to learn a trade, a skill, and also workplace expectations.
Our final question, this will be addressed to Ms. Natasha Richardson. What other awareness building event does the task force have planned in 2020?
Thank you, Nigel, for the closing question. The task force has a few awareness building events planned for 2022. Of course, we're going to have to follow up to this panel discussion where we will be addressing your comments and answering your questions. We have some consultation meetings planned internally with different government departments, the Ministry of ASA, the Ministry of Education, TEAT. But we're also hoping to have consultation meetings with key players from the business community, various associations, and community based organizations. Finally, we are going to host an open house during which we're going to ask all community based organizations that provide support and assistance to justice involved persons to present their services. In anticipation of this open house, we are going to work with UNICEF of the Netherlands, hopefully, to design an information booklet which will include a list of services and support services and for justice involved persons and their family members. The hope is to present this information booklet during this open house session where we will be also be recognizing businesses that have been supporting and employing justice involved persons and a few justice involved persons who have been contributing and giving back to their community. So these are some of the awareness building initiatives that we have planned for 2022. We look forward to the continued support of everyone. And of course, thank you for joining us here today for this panel discussion entitled Let's Act Together, Exploring Opportunity and Second Chances. Thank you.
With that said, we have come to the end of our discussion debate segment of this event. I would like to extend a word of thanks to all the speakers and panelists who have contributed to making this event a reality. Job well done. In particular, I would like to thank the member of the Second Chance Task Force, Foundation Judicial Institute, St. Martin, House of Detention and Prison, and Division of Labor and Social Services. Thank you for tuning in to the panel discussion. Let's act together, exploring opportunities and second chances. Join us for part two of this event, during which the members of the task force will be addressing your comments and questions. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that the discussion has been informative and well received. Thank you.
Let's Act Together, Exploring Opportunities and Second Chances panel discussion was brought to you by the Second Chance Task Force and the Department of Communication. For video on demand, be sure to follow the official Government of St. Martin Facebook page at facebook.com/SXMGOV or subscribe to the Government of St. Martin YouTube channel at youtube.com/Government of St. Martin. And make sure to click the notification bell to stay up to date with future programming from the Government of St. Martin.